finger, bro?
from my last fight. So I fractured it. It's like the
You made a
last.
post about that, didn't you? Did you make a post?
I probably did.
Okay.
That goes back to how we view social media. It probably made sense in the moment, and I posted it, and then was on with my life, kind
Yeah.
of how we talked about. But yeah, so I fractured it at the last knuckle, like right before the tip,
Mm.
but then I also like tore like a tendon.
Mm.
So after my fight last month, great fight, great performance. I'm walking in the back in the locker room, and I'm talking to people that I'm talking to, and then someone like reaches out to hand me my phone, and I reach out to like grab my phone, and then I just look, and I'm like, oh my fucking God, like the tip of my finger is dangling down and twisted.
Oh.
I was like,
Oh
I
my
was like,
goodness.
oh shit, like I didn't even feel it like the whole time, man. Like if I didn't reach for my phone and have
You
my
wouldn't have
hand, I
known.
wouldn't have known.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I probably have to wear this for the next couple of weeks. Like even like I don't think my finger will ever be like straight like
No.
it's supposed to be like that.
Yeah.
Like I don't ever think it's gonna go back to.
It's just a part of it,
Yeah,
man. Yeah. You had that adrenaline going, all those
yeah,
endorphins. You didn't feel anything. That's the
yeah.
thing about fighting. You don't feel it
You,
for. It can be some hours after the fact until
yeah,
some
man.
pain starts.
Days,
Usually the next
days.
day,
Yeah.
I'd wake up pretty sore personally.
The worst thing for me lately has been like, shout out to Duke Rufus, man. Like they've really been showing me how to like throw elbows these last couple years, and
Mm-hmm.
I love throwing elbows.
Yeah.
But then it's like a couple days later, you're like driving, you rest your elbow on the side there, you're just like
Sore.
you're constantly like
Yeah, dude.
like I think that's one of the most notable things where I'm like, all right, 2 3 days from now, I know for a fact my elbows are gonna be sore.
Mm-hmm.
So my hand modeling career is over
That's okay.
officially, but I think I'm okay with that.
You got some other prospects working.
Yeah, 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 some things cooking up. So
Yeah, dude, that's the interesting thing about the body. It's actually pretty soft,
yeah,
and it's you start training and you're like, damn, dude, like why am I so soft and weak and you're hurting? But then you start doing it, and then it hardens, and then like things don't hurt as much. It's
yeah.
like a good feeling.
It's like you realize like we're not made for us as humans, like not genetically, but physically, we're not made for that. Like the training we do
Yeah,
as martial artists day in and day out, like yeah, you can build your body up and you can make it stronger, but as a human being, we have our limits. You have your breaking point. Like
hmm,
my hands today, like I fought over a month ago. My hands today, like you try to get me to open something like that, I'm still hurting, and
yeah,
not just because of my fingers. The tendons and the muscles in my hands are hurting from just punching for 15 minutes.
yeah,
Like it's a lot different than punching a bag and versus a human head,
right.
Like so just like little stuff like that that makes me think like I'm 28 years old. I wonder what my body's gonna feel like when I'm like 50.
Yeah, dude, when the
You know?
recovery is a little
Yeah.
slower.
Yeah, like yeah, I look forward to that day, man. So I've over time you just like I try to stretch, like I
Hmm.
do a little bit of yoga. Like as I've gotten older, I've learned to focus more on recovery and like rest as opposed to back in the day, growing up like wrestling, man. Like you're constantly taught pain is weakness leaving the body,
Yeah, that old
but
saying.
like every fucking day, like every day, man. The things that you do, like jujitsu and grappling, man, like takedowns, hitting the mat, getting back up. Think
Yeah,
about how many times a day or like in a session, a training sessions, you hit the mat and just get back up and
yeah.
hit the
Oh, a
mat.
lot.
That's a lot on your body, man, and I start to feel it already. So I imagine me trying to do this when I'm 40, when I'm 50. Like I feel like it's one of those things you have to keep doing it
Yeah,
because once you stop, there probably is like there's no coming back for it. Once you
yeah.
get past a certain age, obviously.
Well, you're gonna break down regardless, right?
Yeah,
At least you're doing it the way you want to do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like I've had a ton of injuries. So let's see, labrum rotator cuff here, labrum rotator cuff here, ACL a few years ago. I mean, I've
Yeah.
broken both ankles wrestling in high school. But one thing I can say about like at this age, after I had my labrum surgery here, did the rehab, did everything I need to do, like I feel like my shoulder here has been more stable than it was before the injury.
Yeah.
Same thing on the right side. Had the surgery, did my rehab, and I'm like, man, like I've kind of learned through those injuries, like not only where my weaknesses are, but also how to like take care of those parts of my body. My ACL, my knees are great right now.
Yeah.
You know, maybe when I'm 50, I'll start feeling it. But like, you know, through training and the rehab, learning where those weaknesses are, learning what could have caused those injuries.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, you may have had a little bit of instability here, so that affected the mechanics here, and then
Right.
that could have caused a blowout here. It's like you're a car. Like you get the diagnostic information,
Mm-hmm.
and then you realize what you need to put into that car as far as maintenance. And if you continue to do that, the car is going to perform to the best of its ability. So
Yeah.
I've kind of learned that like about my body too. So in a silver lining kind of way, like a lot of my injuries have been like I've benefited from them in some kind of way.
Yeah.
So
They're not like major setbacks.
yeah,
You've learned to like come back stronger.
yeah.
Yeah, man. What kind of mobility stuff you doing these days?
So I do a lot of my mobility work with Jessica Cameron, J
Okay.
Core Fitness. So she, over the last few years, actually, she has me incorporate a lot of like animal flow movements
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of the work that we do.
Okay.
So even like during camps when I'm training here or whatever, like I make sure to try to get in with her like as much as I can. Like
Yeah.
if I'm going through a rough week and my body's are beat, I'm starting to feel my hips get tight. I'm starting to feel my back
Yeah.
and everything get tight. Shoot that text message out to Jess. Be like, hey,
Yeah.
hey, can you fit me in? And like, there's been times, man, like I'm here just like randomly, during the fight camp,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's, I have to be here with Dean or like Tyron or something like that. I'm like, hey, my body's kind of tight. Can you fit me in here? And she's like, yeah, she'll be there same day kind
Oh,
of thing
nice.
and don't ask no questions, put me through a routine, and I feel
Mm-hmm.
like brand new again right
Yeah.
away. So that's been very beneficial for me.
So it sounds like more like body weight, natural movements, just kind of really taking your joints through the ranges of motion and different things like that.
Yeah, like to be honest, man, like I didn't really start. Like I wouldn't even say that I lift weights now.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what my max is on like anything. And until I started working with Stu, who we both know at Output Performance, man,
Yeah.
like
Shout out
before
to Stu
that,
Beef.
yeah, Stu Beef, my guy. So before I started working with him, like me picking up weights was like very far and few between, you know. But getting with him, and he just has me do like basic stuff,
Yeah.
farmers carries, like um kettlebell work, like all that stuff. So it's
Yeah.
even then, it's like I'm not going in there. "Oh, I'm gonna bench 200 pounds today for
Yeah.
5 reps. Like,
Yeah. You're not powerlifting. You're not
yeah,
doing bodybuilder breakdowns.
none of that
Yeah.
stuff. And then when I tell people who may be in other sports or not competitors, they're like, they look at my body and oh, you have to like lift. I can tell by your build. Like, how many times are you in the gym? And I'll be like, well, I'm in the gym what 6 days a week, probably 2 to 3 times a day, but like not the kind of gym you're talking about. Like
Yeah.
if I'm in the gym, like I'm punching something, I'm grabbing someone, I'm
Mm-hmm.
lifting somebody, or I'm working with someone like Stu, or I'm working with someone like Jess maybe once, twice a week, depending on how my body's feeling. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You take the approach. It sounds like of actually like you train. Like everything's training. I think so many people they have this idea of like I'm gonna go work
work.
out. Let me just go just break my body down as much as possible,
Mm,
right? Or you have those trainers where it's a badge of honor where they're trying to kill everybody. Or did you throw up today? Or
mm,
almost that whole I think that mentality is especially very prominent in the CrossFit community,
yeah,
especially right. It's like
yeah,
let me get this wad in and go as hard as I can, as fast as I can, and I want to throw up and be laying down on the ground.
yeah,
But I mean, sure, sometimes you can go crazy and do that shit. But all in all, I mean, if you take the like the measured approach of training, like with a program,
mm.
it sounds like that's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. I've always said that, man. Ever since I was in high school, I had a coach who like preached that. Like there's a difference between working out and training.
Mm-hmm.
So even when it came to like wrestling, like you could go through a hard 2 hour practice. We're wrestling live for an hour and a half. Then we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna do a half an hour of strength and conditioning afterwards. Like yeah, you're gonna get in great shape, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna go at nationals and beat the number one kid in the country. No, he's like we're training. Like our training would consist of, hey, we're gonna go. We used to call it the lab. So we're going to go into the lab and we're going to work on this setup and this takedown for 2 hours. And we're just going to drill it nice and slow. 2 hours. Just drill one takedown, one setup. training for an outcome with a purpose.
Mm.
So then it's like you become so good at something, become good at that one thing to where it's like my elbow pass to my high C, my elbow pass to my double when it came to wrestling. It was one of those things you knew I was going to do it,
Yeah.
but like seeing it and stopping it were two different things
Mm.
because I trained it to a degree. I could do it in my sleep from anywhere as opposed to being like, okay, we're going to go in here. What shot, what takedown do you like? Okay, this week we're gonna go over just high C's, and the next week we're gonna go over double legs, and then the next week we're gonna wrestle on the mat. But it's like, how does it all connect together for me?
Yeah.
And you go into it like every training session with that mindset, and I think that's what even separates like the great people from like the good people is training with a purpose and having a goal in mind and being methodical and most importantly intentional with
Yeah.
like with everything you do. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That
Yeah.
definitely comes across because obviously we were just talking off air, and that's your approach with most things, right?
Yeah, and it can be very frustrating sometimes,
That's
man.
your
Like,
approach, but that's how you become successful, man. Like if you study people who, obviously everybody's different, but a lot of common traits among people who succeed and or you kind of like working the plan. You take an approach, and there's steps along the approach, and like you test, and then you reassess, and then you do something different, and then you keep going forward. I mean, there's an approach.
it's frustrating though, and like even like today. So like I can apply it. My most recent experience, I would say, is like I've approached dating like that.
Oh, really?
Nobody does that anymore. Like no one does that anymore. Like man, I'm 28 years old, I'm coming out of, I'm growing in
Yeah.
my life, so like I'm being more intentional with pretty much everything. Dating is like one of those things, but like it seems like nowadays we're in like the instant gratification stage, so we're like I've seen people they meet someone and then like a month later it's like they're in a relationship. And I'm like, do you even know this person? Like, have y'all dated? Like, you just skip the whole dating part and jump right into a relationship. To where me is like, I'm like so intentional with like even anyone I mess with. It's like, it's gonna be a process. Like,
Yeah.
and like, it can be a gift and a curse sometimes because I find myself where I'm like, I'm constantly like testing. I'm like, I'm gonna give you a little bit of rope to see if you. I'm gonna give you a little bit of rope. See if you hang yourself. Okay, you
Yeah.
don't hang yourself. All right, we can move and progress. And I'm so
Yeah.
like
Sometimes you're
slow.
always testing and they don't
Yeah,
even know it.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then it's like I'll be testing and I forget to actually be in the relationship, actually be in it.
It's a
So it's
blessing
like,
and a curse.
yeah, it's a balance like everything else. And I always say that it's a gift and a curse, man. Like, but I mean, for me, what I've learned is the way I grew up, like it was always off. It's a survival instinct for me. So like I do it and I don't even realize. So then I have to be more intentional about being present
Mm-hmm.
and being in the moment
Yeah.
instead of trying to plan ahead or stepping outside of a situation and trying to see it full scope, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But it's like I gotta make sure I'm in it with this person, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in a friendship,
Yeah.
whether I'm working a job, like whatever it is, because if you're not in certain things, those little important moments will go right past you,
Yeah.
and
It's like sometimes you have to be a little, like you said, present, a little open and vulnerable, as opposed to being like the master planner all the time.
yeah,
Yeah, you'd be a good architect, bro.
I suck at math, so I don't,
Yeah,
I
but you
don't know
got
if
but you got the vision. You
yeah,
can plan it out.
I'd be a good,
You kind of
I,
are an architect in a way,
ooh, that's deep, right? I'm
right?
the architect of my life, but like,
We all are, right?
yeah, but I think if I had any music abilities and talents, which I don't, I think I'd be a good like music producer. Like being able to like have a vision and see things like full scope and like bring it to reality,
Mm.
like whether it's like sonically or whatever. Like I think that's something that like maybe in my past life I could have done or been good at. So
Or maybe
may,
after fighting, who
maybe after.
knows? That's the
Eh,
thing. Like, fighters don't ever want to talk about like after fighting, but shit, dude,
mm,
life is long. Life is so long. You know what I mean? Like, what about when you're like 50 or 60 or
yeah.
70 or I mean, projects come. It's not like you're at that point in life. I would not assume with the type of person that you are, you're gonna be needing to like work for money.
Hmm.
But you're gonna need something. You're like the type of person who probably needs a project.
I'm there now, man. Like,
Yeah,
and
like
that's
always.
constantly like
Yeah. So imagine if you're not training for fights.
yeah, and then I'd probably go crazy.
You're gonna have
But
a lot of
yeah, I'm gonna
projects.
have a lot of projects. Like I'll probably drive myself crazy trying to find things to fill in that space. But like, I mean, I approach life like that now, and it's like it's a weird dichotomy because like I'm working on this fighting thing, right? And I've been working away at it. I've been chipping away at it for like a long time, and I'm making progress. You know, I stumble every now and again, but like who doesn't? That's
Hmm.
part of the growth. That's part of the progress. But I've also through those experiences open windows like elsewhere.
Hmm.
And I'm telling you, man, like I've been in spaces and places like I never really saw myself in. Like if you would ask me a few years ago, I'd be like, nah, like you're crazy. But then as I open those windows and you know I peek through it, you know, and I'm like, oh, then that window leads to another opportunity, opens up another window, and I meet this person, and then I realize I have potential here. I realize I have potential here, and I'm like, I've always been a very like introspective person,
Hmm.
so it's like as I'm stepping through these windows and I'm grasping hold of these like opportunities, like I'm constantly looking within myself, and I'm like, all right, this fighting thing though, like questioning myself, like, am I getting distracted? Or is this taking away from this? Like, is this really just a mirage or an illusion that's meant to like take me away from my ultimate purpose, which is fighting? And I've learned not to look at it that way as much because when it comes to the fighting and the training, I have a great foundation. Like that's the thread of my life. Like literally, if I never fought again tomorrow, like I will still be in the gym training
Hmm.
every day. When I'm traveling around and I'm taking advantage opportunities here, there, wherever I'm at, I'm always training. I'm always finding somewhere to train. You know, I'm always finding someone to train with. Like I'm always like it's such a part of me. It's not going anywhere. And I can rest on that and I can rest that on the idea that I know like when it's go time and when it's time to strictly just dial in, nothing can distract me. You know, I was having a conversation with someone a few days ago, you know, that I'm friends with, you know, there was potential for a potential relationship, but then it ended up not working out. And they saw that me putting my hands in so many pots and then let alone the fighting thing. You know, people have a hard time. People have a hard time like relating to the fact that you get in a cage and you fight in front of thousands of people. Like why? Like I don't understand like why you do that. And they're like, well, I'm trying to figure myself out, and I don't want to be a distraction to you. And I was like, as a man, like I know what I want out of life, you know, and I realize I'm still growing, and what I want tomorrow may not be what I see as fit for me today. But the reality is, you're only getting so much real estate. Like, and I understand, like, it's not that you're not important, and I understand, like, when we operate here, like, that's critical. But like, if you push beyond the boundaries that I set, you gotta go.
Mm.
I'm only gonna, you literally can't distract me because any time that I've invested, anything else that I've invested into our friendship, relationship, or whatever, it's preordained. And if you stay within that, we're good. If you go beyond it, we're probably not gonna last
Yeah.
because I know what my priorities are. Whether it's fighting, building myself, some of the acting stuff that I've done, like whatever it is, like I'm allowing you space. You can't distract me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. You're
yeah,
disciplined.
yeah. I guess I don't feel like I am sometimes, but you know, people tell me that, so yeah, I can be very disciplined.
What else would you call that
I'm
if you don't allow yourself to be distracted and you stay on task?
intentional.
Intentional.
I feel like discipline has like can have a negative connotation
It can.
sometimes. Yeah, just like because when I think of discipline, right? Like you think of if I don't do this, I'm going to get in trouble.
Mm.
If I'm intentional, I'm like I'm going to do this. If it works out, it works out.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, I'm going to find another way.
Okay.
So like that's just how I see it.
Yeah.
And
That's
that
fair.
probably has a lot to do with once again how we figure out the world is generally the conditions and everything that we grow up in. So
Yeah.
like for me like discipline. Like I grew up in a situation to where I wasn't safe, I wasn't stable. There was a bit of like abuse. So when I think discipline, I think of like corporate, yeah,
like being
punishment.
disciplined.
Yeah,
Yeah,
being
yeah,
disciplined.
being punished.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that
So I
makes
like to
sense.
say intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Intentional is a good word for that too.
yeah,
Yeah, because I mean, you have to focus on the thing that you're doing, and I mean, if you're being intentional about your life, you're not allowing yourself to get distracted by these other
yeah,
things. Like you have a purpose with each
yeah.
action. Yeah.
And I rest on that too. So when I'm doing things that deviate away from like fighting, I rest on like my internal compass like checking me.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I can do this. And then if I step out here, like I trust myself, I trust my foundation, my constitution so much that I'm going to question myself to be like, okay, is this right? Is it wrong?
Right.
Is it taking me away from this? Where I feel like maybe some people I'm learning don't have that. And that's just kind of been like the trend of my life is like realizing where I may be unique in places that I may be muted throughout my life,
Hmm.
but then it's realizing that like a lot of that shit is like strength.
Yeah.
And I had no fucking idea until you start talking and opening up to people, having conversations, and then you see their reaction to the things that you're saying, and you're like, oh, like is that profound? I had no
Yeah.
idea because I had closed so much of myself off to pretty much anybody,
Yeah.
and like as I've grown and I opened up, and it's like, damn, I'm kind of like making an impact, or this person sees me in this way. Maybe there's something there. I should probably dig into that a little bit more. So I
Yeah.
was like learning even a lot about myself, like through the world and through other people,
Right.
but then also being so concrete in my foundation to know that like if someone puts something on me that doesn't feel right and doesn't feel like me, to be like, that's not me either.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's just men life,
Yeah, it sounds like you're
yeah,
constantly broadening and actually like strengthening your self-awareness,
yeah,
right? I mean, you're an introspective, um, like a deep thinking, like planning type of guy, right?
yeah.
And because I spend a lot of time in my head.
Hmm.
I spend a lot of time thinking.
I didn't realize how much I did, man.
Yeah, and
Like,
you only speak whenever you feel like there's something to be said, right?
exactly.
So when you do, for you, like you spend so much time with your thoughts, they're just your thoughts. But
Yes.
then you say the things to people, and it's like one of I think one of the greatest things I've learned, or I try to keep in mind from a perspective standpoint, is that not everybody knows what I know,
Hmm.
and on the same return, like everybody you meet will probably know something that you don't. So I'm constantly learning. I used to just assume that people knew what I knew, but
Hmm.
they don't. So whenever you do share some things that you're thinking about or that you do know, it's just like, whoa, like they're not ready for that.
Yeah, but you've also like killed your ego too. To even just say like someone would know something that I don't know.
Yeah.
That's hard for a lot of people to to realize or even come to understand because you grow up in a certain way and like you see it all the time. Like there are some people that are so sensitive to like challenging perspectives in life. But you realize it's because like they've been so rooted in one perspective their entire life. That's what they built their existence off of.
Yeah.
So like anything alternative to that, you're contending against me. There's friction, whereas someone like you go into a situation, you're like, this person could maybe teach me something I don't know.
Yeah.
And like that's a growth mindset. That's essentially like what learning is, like
Mm.
whenever you learn a skill or a talent or you learn anything about a subject, you're not just learning, you're understanding what you don't know. You're realizing how stupid or ignorant you may have been the moment before. And
Yeah.
then you put that information in there and it's just that constant growth thing. And you can tell you have a growth mindset and most people don't. Most people are fixed in their ways, fixed in their thoughts, fixed in their perspectives.
Yeah.
Uh,
You know, I was who was I speaking with? I think maybe I brought it up a couple different times, but I wonder, is it possible to have a growth mindset when you're operating in not like you're not operating in scarcity, but you're put in scarcity because you're constantly just operating in survival mode. You know, how many people are constantly just surviving day to day that they can't even see past that to actually start growing or like caring about their community or trying to
Yeah.
save money or do any of these things to better themselves when you're just constantly surviving.
I think it's like that old adage, right? It's like it's not what happens to you, it's what you do with it.
Yeah.
So I would be someone in ways growing up, like constantly trying to survive and get to the next step was like how I got along,
Mm.
you know, and obviously that is like encoded a lot of like responses that are just intuitive to me in my life today is whether it's in confrontation or you know in relationships or whatever the dynamic may be like I realize a lot of the way that I am like the insight that I have on the world today
Yeah.
I picked up through survival. So like growing up I conditioned myself to be quiet, stay out of the way. That's how you get through life. Don't draw any attention to you. But in that same moment, in those same moments where I'm being quiet or I'm moving around like my own home and I'm like walking on eggshells and in tension, but like my eyes were always open and I was always having that internal dialogue like with myself and processing things around me, like seeing things that I probably shouldn't have been seeing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like having that internal dialogue, making sense of it. Even growing up, like if you would have ever asked me, like, if you knew me, let's say 10 years ago when I was 18, and you asked me, do you have an imagination? Like, I would have been like, no, man. Like, I felt like I was always anchored in reality, you know, like actions and outcomes,
Yeah.
black and white. But then I also, like, as I've come to learn and discover myself, like, I realized, like, I have a very profound imagination, but where it kicked in and kind of like what you said earlier, like they were just thoughts to me, kind of. It was kind of
Right.
the same thing to where if I was in a situation as a kid to where I felt like unsafe, like I would daydream,
Mm.
like often, like a crazy amount. Like I would daydream, and I still do it to this day. Like
Yeah.
I mean, I realize how much like I dissociate,
Yeah. So
but
you defined imagination as this one thing, so you didn't think of it as this
as
other.
this other thing,
Yeah.
yeah. So like even as a kid, like, and this is something that like I write about to like my safe space was like my room.
Mm.
So like whenever whatever was happening around me was happening, I would go to my room, lock my door, sit on the floor, play with my WWE action figures. I think we talked about that last time,
Yeah.
like how big I was into wrestling, but like I wouldn't just like play with them. Like I would literally I can remember to this day like if someone was walking past my door and I felt like scared or like afraid, like go into a daydream of like me being a professional wrestler or like
Mm.
me being The Rock or something like that, some figure. And then like it wasn't just like a thought, it was like I was actually in my mind, I was actually there.
Mm.
I was actually this professional wrestler wrestling this match, living the lifestyle. Like I felt like I was there. And then you think about what I do today.
Yeah. You're out there kicking ass,
Yeah,
larger than life, half naked,
yeah, half naked in
up in a in
arenas.
a, in a cage. Yeah.
Yeah, like so it's like those experiences caused me to grow. That scarcity of safety, you know, the scarcities were different. That scarcity of safety, that scarcity of feeling like my voice could be heard caused me to go inward, which then throughout my life as I met people, I made decisions that caused me to go outward.
Mm.
Now I'm fighting. Now I'm acting. I'm commentating.
Yeah.
You know, the kid who was quiet and tried to stay out of the way his entire life, you put a camera in front of his face and a microphone, you ask him to talk about something that he's passionate about, and turns out he's pretty fucking good at talking.
Yeah.
He didn't even know that, right? Like, so it's just crazy. It's just, I think at the end of the day, it all comes down to like a decision
Yeah.
and what you do with what happens to you. So growing up in that survival mode I think it can be a blessing But then there comes in that you have to be conscientious. You have to really know where you're at and become one with yourself to make it a strength and not play that victim mentality. You see a lot of people who go through things or live in scarcity or whatever, like, woe is me, this, oh, I'm this because of this, or I'm this because my parents didn't do this, or
Mm-hmm.
I'm this because I had this opportunity stripped away from me from this. Like, yeah, they just stay there.
Right.
Like, not even that I was so like profound to be like, oh, David, you had all these things happen to you, like, so now you gotta be great. But no, it's just like I got to a point to where I was just okay with being uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
which then grew to me being like cognizant of like now I know what I'm bringing to the table through these experiences, which led to opportunities, which led to me saying yes to opportunities, which ultimately led to me being the person that the scared little kid envisioned. And
Yeah.
it all just comes full circle. And it's still happening to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I think that ability just to kind of like turn inward and to really focus your thoughts and intentions is a superpower.
Yeah.
It really is. I think I'm so big into just like I think you can truly manifest the things that you want in your life. Obviously, you have to do work, but if you put intention towards it and you like visualize it and you have a plan,
Hmm.
so many things can come of it. Even if it's not even the thing that you envisioned, right?
Yeah.
It's like you have this idea for your future and it's probably something you think about a lot and there's all these different opportunities that spring up or these people that cross your path that you had no idea about, but they're still taking you towards the ultimate thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's a superpower, just to have that ability to focus and live intentionally.
That's something me and Dean Thomas talked about a lot. And that was the weird thing about like our dynamic, like me living with him for like almost 2 years damn near.
Yeah, you're with
It's
him a
like I
lot,
was like,
dude.
yeah, man, like, oh man, I loved living in Florida, man. Like I've been back in St. Louis for about a month now. And don't get me wrong, like I love being home, but like man, Florida was just
Florida's your
you
jam,
can't you
huh?
can't beat Florida. Like I miss like waking up and like, oh, I don't have anything to do today. I'm gonna just go to the beach.
Yeah.
I know the weather's gonna be nice. Like, oh, it's raining. Like, it's only gonna rain for 20 minutes, and I can go to the beach. Like,
Yeah.
like I miss that. But like, I texted Dean like 2 days ago, and I remember one of our last conversations at the house, the firm is what we called
That's
it,
called it.
and like we're talking about some of the opportunities that like at that time were just they weren't even ideas to me. They kind of just came my way, and I started to entertain them, and I'm like, man, like is it possible for me to even leverage this opportunity into even like a fighting career? Like they could go hand in hand. And like, Dean, the MMA coach and trainer, he's like, of course. I feel like most people would have been like no, you need to focus on
Yeah.
fighting. You got to train every day. Da, da, da. He's like no, keep putting yourself in positions to win. It's not crazy for you to think that you can get this opportunity on TV or whatever it is, or this opportunity and come to the table with a promotion like a UFC and even maybe even possibly get more simply based off of what you're bringing to the table outside of the sport.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally texted him 2 days ago. I'm like, I got some news, got an email, and I'm like, yo, our conversation is literally like coming to life, like as we speak right now. And he's just like, you're exactly where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just crazy how that works out, man. Because,
Yeah.
like I said earlier, I've been chipping away at this fighting thing for so long, and you fought, you know how it is. Like, I feel like fighting, especially particularly MMA, like there are so many Michael Jordans in MMA that never really whatever got whatever opportunity for whatever reason, but there's so many good fighters who may be better than the top best fighters in the world right
Oh,
now.
there's a ton of good
You know what
fighters
I'm
out
saying?
there.
And because the margin for error in our sport is like so small.
Yeah, it's
You know,
tough.
it's tough, man.
Yeah.
And like I don't like to use the word luck, but like so many things have to go right for you to
Yeah.
not alone win a fight, no matter how skilled you are, because it comes to a point to where everyone's skilled at the highest level. I will never fight someone and look at them across the cage at this point in my career and just for sure know I could beat this person.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because like we're all good, and if we're not technically good, they're tough.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if they're not super tough, they're probably super skilled in one
Yeah.
discipline. And if you go there within this 15-minute span, it's probably not going to be best for you.
Yeah, like the idea of a
Yeah,
walkthrough, you just
yeah,
shouldn't. I mean, maybe you do walk through them, but that
yeah.
shouldn't be in your head.
And
Like,
and even
this
if
is an
it
easy
is,
fight.
even if it's a walkthrough, a puncher's chance.
Always have, yeah.
There's always a puncher's chance. It's a matter of inches. You're in the
Mm-hmm.
wrong spot at the wrong time. And you get clipped, man, and that's just our sport, and that's what makes like fighting so hard. And it's like to circle back to what I was getting at too. It's like I've been chipping at this thing for so long, and then I'm starting to realize like the opportunities are scarce to like be great in this sport. So like when you get those opportunities, you have to capitalize.
Mm-hmm.
I lost my fight back in February. Dana White's there. They're filming the Dana White looking for a fight.
Mm.
Nelk boys are there, looking at the kid that I fought, Gage Young, like talented kid, but I knew there was only one way he could beat me. That turned out to happen for whatever reasons. I don't make excuses or whatever. I move forward. But even understanding that, like, if I win that fight, I'd be here talking to you right now as a UFC fighter.
Yeah.
And watching the broadcast on UFC Fight Pass, I finally watched it after a while. Like winning the first minute and a half, controlling him. Like I was surprised because like this kid is coming down from 155. I'm a 45er. If I needed to, I can make 135.
Mm-hmm.
So I expected, in my mind for him to be like this big, strong, like hulking guy. Like I'm gonna have to wear him out.
Mm-hmm.
Then I put my hands on him. I was like, oh shit, like I'm moving him, like, and I'm not working very hard, So maybe I hyped it up little, a little more in my head than it probably would have been. But um, separate, eye poke. Most people saw it. Like I didn't even realize it happened. Like I thought in my mind, because put his hands out. It wasn't anything intentional, obviously. Put his hands out. I go here, look at the ref. He stops for a second. Ref doesn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see shit, but I hear like he's moving forward. Sorry for that. Sorry,
No,
but
you're
I
fine.
hear how the
Yeah.
cage is. Like
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
hear the feet coming forward,
Yep.
and I'm here, and I'm just like throwing, which is stupid. I mean, you throw blindly, game of inches is probably not gonna work out for you very well. Big dude got power in his right hand. I went down. Ref stops the fight. That's it. Go back home maybe like a week or two later, and I finally watch it on UFC Fight Pass. And right before our fight, they're announcing that we're about to fight. They pan in on Dana White. I forgot who his right hand man is, like Hunter or something. I don't know. I forget, whatever. They're all at the table, and you see Dana White looking down, and it's my picture
Oh
with
shit.
my stats, and he's
Oh shit. What's going through your
that
mind
that
in that moment?
that's how close I was to
Yeah.
changing my life, right?
Mm.
But yeah, just looking at it, then that made me realize, yo, like these moments are real.
Yeah.
Like, so when you get those moments, you have to capitalize on it.
Mm-hmm.
And like at this point in my career, realistically, those moments aren't gonna come every day. So I have to make the most of those moments,
Right.
and where I fucked up even in that fight, like going back and just remember mentally, like I had him against the cage and I'm like, this went through my mind. Like this was the actual thoughts in my mind. I'm like, oh, I could just wrestle him all day. Moving him here. I'm like, yo, I can wrestle him. I can just do this and win.
Mm-hmm.
A few seconds later, if I just sit here and wrestle him, they're going to boo and it's not going to be an exciting fight.
Yeah.
Let me let him go. Let me let him work up and come back to our feet.
You let
Boom.
him up to the feet? Is what is
I
going
won't say let him as if like I'm all.
through? But
I
you're
was
not trying to keep him down.
I wasn't trying to keep him down, and it goes back to us. also kind of goes back to a training thing to where I have a bad habit or had a bad habit of fighting positions when they weren't there.
Mm.
And like I could get away with it because I was strong enough, whether it's,
Yeah.
because I'm not going to sit here and say I'm the highest level jujitsu practitioner, right?
Hmm.
So even when I grapple with like high level jujitsu guys, like I can control them position for position. You're probably not going to submit me. I'm going to control you, keep my hips where they need to be. When I get my hand control, I'm going to punch you, I'm going to
Hmm.
elbow you, and
Yeah.
I'm going to punish you. But there were times to where I would just get so sold out on that to where me trying to do that is like I'm working a lot harder than I have
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. You're not being efficient.
So that had a lot to do with it too. And my execution wasn't there. But I was okay with just, okay, let him go, create space, blah, blah, blah. I had touched him, my jab, so I knew I can touch him.
Hmm.
Touched him with a good left hand, which I caught him, and then he read it because that's what he caught me with. I was throwing my left hook wide,
Yeah.
he came over the top. So when I caught him with that first check left hook, he was smart. He did what he needed to do. He made the adjustments, and he was throwing his right hand down the middle. He brought it over. So like that's that game of inches, right?
Right.
So I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, I let the kid up. Like I'm just,
I get
like
what you're saying though. You didn't want to waste your energy trying to hold that position.
trying to hold him
You're willing
down.
to transition up to the feet.
And I'm like, but I was doing it because was like, I want to be exciting.
Yeah.
And then now I'm like, no, fuck that. Like,
That's a tough situation to be in though, dude, because you have to be exciting.
yeah,
You could have wrestle fucked him the whole match,
yeah,
whole fight, won, still not got signed.
yeah,
Like you have to be excited.
yeah, yeah, right. And
It's a shitty,
it's show business.
dude.
Like
It's a
that's what we
shitty
do.
proposition, dude.
Yeah. Now that I look at it like that, yeah, yeah.
It's tough, dude. I mean, unless obviously Dean has connections, right?
Yeah.
Unless somebody's helping you with the conversation, or you're training at a gym, like what you do. I mean,
Hmm.
you said Rufus Sport, right?
Yeah.
Obviously they're
Yeah.
pulling fighters from there all the time,
Yeah.
or you go to Sanford or Jackson Wink or any of these fighters, like they're pulling fighters from there.
Yeah.
But dude, certain things like that Dana White show, like that Contender Series, you can't just win.
Yeah.
Like you have to be exciting too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to be. Fortunately for you, you have the total package.
Mhm.
As you can tell a story. You look good. You talk well. You know what I mean? Like there's all these things, and you fight phenomenally. So you have all the things to like win on a show like that and
Mhm.
get the contract.
Yeah.
It's just, man, that's just a double-edged sword,
Yeah.
though. You know what I mean? You got to be a little reckless to win those fights
Yeah.
sometimes.
And I think my last fight bouncing back from that, so that was my first loss as a professional. Like
Yeah, how do you respond? That's a big deal.
exactly. So I go into that fight and I realized what I need to be successful. So even going through the experience to the Dana White looking for a fight. I'm going into Kansas City, the kids from Kansas City. Like I'm coming into his house, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going through the motions, weigh-ins, like he's posturing, doing all of this bullshit. Like I see right through it. Like I'm never someone that needs to like do that. But like I was almost just like I'm too cool, Like I'm too relaxed.
Yeah.
Like even in the fight in the back, like like I'm going through I'm not nervous. Then I start having that conversation with myself like, damn, should I be nervous that I'm not nervous? I walk out like I'm comfortable. I'm seeing everything. I'm seeing everyone. Like I'm like, okay, maybe I've made it. Maybe I've arrived because this just feels like another day to me.
Mm-hmm.
I realize the gravity of the moment. It's not that, but maybe I was just too comfortable, right? And then that situation happens, and then I was planning on winning that fight, and then probably take a couple months, just kind of relax, not do anything. But then I get the opportunity for the LFA fight. And I remember my manager, I got a text message from him at like 3 a.m. And I'm like, the timing's not right. Like I'm moving. I'm in the middle of planning a move from Florida to St. Louis, like last minute. Then I would have to figure out where I'm gonna set up camp. Like Dean's traveling around with the UFC. Like I don't have access to him like I usually do at this very moment. And I'm like, fuck, this is super uncomfortable because like all of my procedures that I had in place, like everything's just kind of all over and wow now. This would be a horrible time for me to take a fight. But then I'm like, fuck, man, like I realize where I'm at in my career, and I'm like, I can't pass up any opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Like I literally can't say no to this,
Right.
especially after what had just happened in my last fight. And then there's a part of me that's like, I gotta get that off of my back. So I say yeah to the fight. Man, I probably in preparation for that fight was the least amount of training I've ever done for a fight. Not because I was lazy or I didn't want to, because I didn't have like access to the resources that I usually have. So I was doing what I could. Like it's funny because I was having a conversation with the guys who cornered me. O'Day Osborne, he's in the UFC. He's a 25er,
Okay.
and then DiMaggio, who's a local fighter here.
Yep.
And we're driving back from Wisconsin to St. Louis, and I'm like, someone had made a comment or sent me a DM and like, man, that was your best striking performance ever, da da da. And I was like, it's like, yo, I haven't hit mitts with a coach or a trainer since a week before my last fight. And that
Mm.
was like 2 months ago. 2 months ago. And then like I go out there and have the best striking performance like I ever had.
Yeah.
Like how does that make sense?
Dude, sometimes that rest is necessary. You know what I mean? Like, in the sense of you weren't training as much,
Hmm.
right? You know how to fight. Your
Yeah.
body knows how to do that. As long as you're in shape, you can probably go in there and do the thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So maybe just the downtime where you weren't overly mentally preparing, where it's
Hmm.
like I have to have this camp. This day is this and
Yeah.
this, and you know what I'm saying? You're
That's
not
where you like as a fighter, like I've run that part of my life like a business,
right.
man. Setting up my camps, like that's how I'm able to go and travel other places because the relationships with my sponsors that I have, like
Yeah.
they take care of me, I take care of them. Like there's a lot more that goes into that than
Mm-hmm.
like people would think like, oh, I'm gonna put your patch on my shorts, you're gonna give me money. Like no, it's bigger than that. I have true relationships with like these people that support me, like
Right. You view it
you
as a
know,
partnership.
and they'll a partnership and they'll support me outside of fighting because of it, you know, and like the biggest thing for me too, as I remember getting ready to walk out for that fight. I'm warming up, or even before that, I get to the venue. I'm sitting in the back. I do my usual thing. I just put my headphones on. And I'm like, I kind of want to be here. I need to be here. I need to be in the moment. I don't have my headphones on as much. Everybody's in the locker room talking. There are a few guys that I knew that I trained with from Florida. Like, I didn't even know they were on the card. So we're talking, and I'm like, okay, I'm comfortable. Few minutes go by, and I'm like, start seeing the first person warm up. The show's about to start now,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, I'm hearing it, I'm feeling it. My heart's beating. I'm like, oh shit, like, am I getting nervous? And then we start warming up. Ode puts me through a good warm up. DiMaggio holds mitts for me, and I'm start thinking about, all right, like some of the bad things that could happen. Then I'm like, fuck, I'm a little more nervous. And then I don't think it helped. Maybe like a week before the fight, I came across an interview with the guy that I was fighting. He was talking about how he's gonna kill me. He's
Mm.
gonna he's gonna murder me. He's out here to take my life. And like I've learned that I respond to that kind of shit very well. Like I'm a calm, cool, collected dude, but like that'll bring that side out,
Okay.
And like I remember a few minutes before the walk, this was an actual thought I had in my mind. Like I'm stretching out, and then like my hands are shaking a little bit. And I just remember thinking to myself, oh, this is why people don't do this. The nerves and shit, like oh shit, what I do isn't normal. This is why people don't fight. This
It's
is why people
uncomfortable.
this is why people spend their whole entire life avoiding what I'm about to do right now.
Mm-hmm.
I was nervous.
Yeah.
And I'll go out there and I have the best performance of my life.
You got to be on edge a little bit, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I've learned. I've learned that,
Yeah, because
and
it keeps you sharp.
I think my past experience has kind of diluted that a little bit. Cause like even like fighting on the local scene and stuff. Like man, there's been times like no lie to you, bro. Like I fight for like a Shamrock. I can sell it to like 200 tickets.
Mm-hmm.
I'm producing merch. Like I'm doing all of that on my own.
Yeah.
I'd be selling merch up until like 10 minutes before showtime. You know, people calling my phone, trying to get tickets, trying to get this. Other than like my sister helping out where she could, like
Mm-hmm.
I'm handling all of that shit up until 10 minutes before I walk out.
Yeah. You want to
So,
talk about being distracted?
yeah. So, like, I'm not in it, you
Right.
know? So, like, I think that's why I kind of got comfortable because, like, I maybe use that, like you said, as a distraction from, like, the nerves and stuff like that. Because I'm looking at it, I got to get a certain result. Like, I'm setting up this after party here and this, I got to have the merch here. And, like, I'm in the back, like, phone call. Like,
Yeah, and that's one of those things you can't do
yeah,
once you start facing like the high level
yeah,
people, the better
yeah.
people that when you're both vying for that job.
Yeah, right. Because I mean, at that point, it's like everyone says, is like we both have a dream, and like I have to crush their dreams in order for mine to survive and carry forward.
Yeah.
So like being a lot more present last month and just getting nervous, man, and
Mm.
realizing that like I respond very well to adversity, and like I may have sold myself short in the past trying to dull that,
Mm.
you know, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true, man. The things we tell ourselves, and sometimes it really can be a little overwhelming when you truly kind of grasp what your potential is and what you are capable of accomplishing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think mediocrity is so celebrated in today's society, and then especially in a community like St. Louis, there is a lot of crab in
Yeah.
a barrel where they're trying to
Yeah.
pull you down,
Oh,
man.
yeah. Yeah.
And if you are doing well, and some of it, and some of it is, I don't know if it's necessarily. I think you see the spectrum, but I think some of it is just people not necessarily just wanting you to do worse, but it's just that they just start feeling so bad about themselves,
Hmm.
and you can kind of hear it in their voices when you're telling them things, or I mean, you come across people you can't tell them what you're
Yeah.
doing. Their eyes get
Hmm.
glossed over, and then it just they don't care, and then you just feel
Yeah.
like you're just bragging, or it just doesn't
Yeah.
fucking matter,
Yeah.
so you just don't say shit, right?
Hmm.
Kind of like in the beginning, you're like, so much has happened, but so much hasn't,
Oh,
type of
yeah.
deal, because
Everything and nothing is
yeah, exactly,
happening
right?
right
It's
now. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you can't tell them that everything
Yeah.
that's happening, right?
Hmm.
Because it doesn't make any sense. But I think that what was I thinking about? I remember in high school, it was my senior year before we had like this big like crosstown rivalry with Helias,
Hmm.
Helias High
Yeah.
School.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was always like a big wrestling thing because
Yeah.
they've always had like a very sick wrestling team throughout the
I
years.
lost to a kid from Elias my sophomore year in the state semifinals.
Really?
I was working on the tech in the first period, took bottom in the second, tried a Grammy roll.
Oh
It got
shit!
stuck. They used to wear
Damn.
those tights, like they wear their singlets, and
Yeah,
then
and they
I
had the tights
hated that.
underneath them.
I
Yeah,
hated
they've always
that.
had a strong program, so it was
Yeah.
always a big deal when we kind of went against them, the public school. And I remember some of the kids who I thought were my friends. Like I look back on them now, I'm like those kids, like they're not my friends. Like
Yeah.
I don't even talk to a single one of those people
Hmm.
today. But I heard like they wanted me to lose, and at the time, dude, like I mean, I was ranked second in the state. I was running through everybody. There's no fucking chance in what I was going to lose to this kid. But they wanted me to lose, and that really like pissed me off. It kind of hurt my feelings. Like I went out and I think I almost teched him and then I pinned him
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
like I just wanted to embarrass the
Yeah.
kid and
Yeah.
do that. So I did that, but I realized this maybe the other day. I don't know if I was microdosing or what I was doing, but I was deep in thought, and I was
Hmm.
like, man, I spent a good amount of my fighting career in life kind of just downplaying my shine, for lack of a
Yeah.
better term, dude. Just kind of being more humble than I needed to be, like not being my true authentic, like I am the fucking shit and I want to murder people. And that kind of affected my fighting career actually. Because it starts as this small thing where
Hmm.
you kind of start being just a little bit more humble, but then that turns into a little bit of self doubt, and then
Yeah.
it kind of manifests into your performances, and it can be this
Exactly.
whole mental thing that you're going under, and then ultimately it just manifests as not having belief in yourself or your
Yeah.
true potential. So then you hinder what you can
Hmm.
possibly do in life because you don't have that ultimate belief in yourself, all
Yeah.
because somebody who probably was a little jealous, who didn't have, who was there, who was also insecure, we're all just kids at the time,
Hmm.
said something, and it can kind of manifest in your whole life, and that can happen to a lot of people, and probably does. You know
Because
what I mean?
you program yourself to dim your light
To
to
make
make
it.
everyone else comfortable.
Yeah,
And like,
bro.
man, I've experienced that not only with my peers, but with people who were supposed to lead me and guide me at times. And I never would have thought that like how could you see me in that way? Because I'm looking at you like you got it all figured out. You know, whether it's been fighting related or just really in my personal life,
Yeah.
man. Like, and I've always been the type of person like I was talking to like one of my really to be honest, one of my only true friends. So when you talk about somebody that I can talk to about anything or I can talk to about nothing, my friend Drizzy, he's a barber here in St. Louis. He's pretty popular. Shout out to Drizzy Studios. But that's actually where I was going when I saw you
Oh, were
when I was
you? Oh,
downtown.
okay.
So I'll hang out like around Wash Ave quite a bit, and like he just opened up a studio off of Olive.
Okay.
And so I was leaving from like Wash Ave and then driving over to Olive and I parked and that's when I looked. I was like, ain't nobody else I know got hair like that. Ain't nobody else I know got hair like that. And I was like, yo, that's
I don't know. I
Adam.
was in such a zone that day.
Yeah, but like we were having a conversation yesterday because he just opened up his studio. He's been doing like a lot of big things. Like you should have him on the podcast actually one day.
Okay.
He'd be a great person for you to talk to. And we're just talking about like I've essentially known this dude since like middle school. We were on the same club team, then we were college roommates, and then we got to talking about some of the other people we were like friends with and like how we don't really see them or like we probably wouldn't even want to hang out with them,
Mm.
at this point. But it's like, man, we were like we've always kind of like accented each other. Like we're always constantly like growing at the same time. Therefore, we're always going through the same shit
Mhm.
at the same time, just in our own little avenues. And then I've been back in St. Louis for like a month, so I'm like, it just kind of dawned on me, and I'm like, yo, like you might be my only like friend, yo. But I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I'm good with that because man, this dude, I fight in Miami, I fight in Milwaukee. Like no matter where I'm at, I'm gonna get my pre-fight cut. Like he's gonna come out, he's gonna be there. He's not only gonna cut me up, whatever I need, like he's gonna be there and never have to ask. And
Mhm.
like for me, it's the same with him. Like whatever he's working on, like I'm just there. Like I'd be offended if he asked me to be somewhere. Like I'm just intuitively, automatically there, bro, to help you and to help you grow and just support you in like what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it's never been that thing because like he's like a year, maybe two younger than me. So like even growing up wrestling, like in high school, I was like you. Like I have a story. Like my junior year on my high school, I'm undefeated. I'm just coming off of All American at Fargo. Like, I just
It's a
I
good
was
year.
I was like that was a good year. And like I dislocated my shoulder the week before state and ended up having surgery and like so I couldn't compete. And I remember I just went to support, some other people and I remember going to weigh-ins with my teammates. And like obviously, like you can't go back there if you're not competing. So I'm walking around the Hearn Center, I believe it is.
Yeah, the Hearns.
I'm walking around the Hearn Center in my sling, and I just walked over there because a couple of my teammates were going to weigh in, and they called my weight class. They called my name. I didn't respond, and like everyone in the weigh-in area starts cheering.
They're all happy they don't got to deal with you,
Happy,
bro.
bro. And then like that was probably one of the most defeating like moments of my life at the time, and I just remember just sitting in the hallway of the Hearn Center crying,
Mm.
and like these guys are like celebrating that like I'm not there, but like I mean a week before that I'm like so dialed in and I'm focused and I'm like doubting myself a little bit. Like I know I'm good, but I need to be consistent. Like I need to, the best wrestler almost never wins state. It's about being the best on that day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I need to focus on being the best on that day. Then the injury happens, and then that moment happens, and then from that moment on, I'm just like, bro, I can't. Like, I deserve this shit.
Mm.
Cause like, if they're looking at me like that, imagine what I could do if I looked at me like that.
Yeah, that was affirmation for you.
Yeah, yeah, it sucked. It sucked at the moment,
I
but
bet.
and like, I will never dim my light for anybody. I don't care if
No.
it's a relationship. I don't care if it's a friendship. I don't care if you're a coach or a mentor. There's that old saying, the 48 laws of power, like don't outshine the master, right?
Mm.
Like To a degree,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I interpret it as like be humble and always seek knowledge.
Mhm.
But like I've been in spaces with people, man, and like people that are considered masters in their craft, and I go and I try something and I blow it out of the water. And like I'm just moving. I'm just moving through life. Like
Mhm.
this isn't something that I've practiced for, I trained for. It's just something that's intuitively like
Yeah.
I've done and I've done well at. And like I've had people that have tried to mentor me, but I realize it's more about them and their ego and keeping me in check as opposed to actually
Right.
allowing me to grow.
Yeah, not really actually trying to help you,
Yeah.
right? Just self-serving.
Yeah.
That happens too. That totally happens too, man. Yeah, dude. You just got to be able to watch out and
Yeah.
kind of figure out who's there for you and who
hmm
isn't, right?
That's the theme of my life right now, man, and it's crazy how like hard it's been. Cause like there are people, man, that I thought were in my life
Mhm.
for the long haul, like not just peers, people that I may have looked at like father figures at
Mm.
some point to where like I realized they may have had a different agenda or they were only comfortable with my relationship with them as long as I'm beneath them or as
Yeah.
or I'm subordinate to them. But it's like, man, I'm growing into a man. And then
Yeah.
once you meet them as equals, then you really see who they actually are. And you're like, oh, you are not the person that I thought you were this entire time. You were just comfortable because you felt I was beneath you. But then when I respond to you as an equal, I don't even know who you are anymore.
Right.
And man, I've lost within this last I'd say year and a half, man, I've lost pretty much like almost everyone that I thought was down the ride, whether it be I realized, they were around when my name's out there and shit's popping. Or I realized that when I'm equal with them in certain areas, it's like then all of a sudden I'm a villain in their eyes.
Yeah.
Whether it's been someone I thought like I could be in love with, and then once they get around me, their insecurities start showing up and they start projecting that shit. Like, and it's like I've just been cutting so much dead weight,
Yeah.
and like I feel like there has to be because there's growth and like there's something's coming
Right.
because this isn't just happening for a reason. I don't know what that looks like. Whether it looks like me being a world champion fighter, whether it looks like me breaking out into the modeling space, which is crazy. Never in a million. Bro, I'm 5'8", 170 pounds. Like, never saw myself walking on like a runway. But then like, you start opening those windows up. Randomly go to KC. Randomly run into the head of like New York Fashion Week, and like he's a friend of mine, but he's my agent now,
Oh
and
shit.
we're trying to build and get me work. And like, I just got back from New York doing some things with him and just meeting his people, and I'm like, what I've learned. Long story short, the people that are gonna put you in the places where you're destined to be don't look like you often. They don't talk like you often. They don't. They don't. They may not even see the world like you. But those are the people that are going to help you the most. The people that you're often around with because you're comfortable with because you feel like, oh, we're into this together, or we look like this, we come from the same place, or those people once you surpass them are going to be so uncomfortable with you, and they're going to like excommunicate you
Mm.
because of how you make them feel.
Yeah.
But that person who is one of the biggest lawyers ever, da da da. Like randomly, I'll get a phone call when I'm doing my business shit, trying to get a camp lined up. I didn't even ask them for anything. Hey, how does 10 grand? You need 10 grand? Like you're asking me?
So the answer is
Yeah,
yes.
like legit, man. Like, and I just had a conversation where I'm arguing with someone who's basically family, that may run a business, and we're trying to come to terms on, what a sponsorship looks like for less than a quarter of that.
Mhm.
And I go from this person who's familiar to me that should just probably just like the way that I am, if you're doing something, you're my boy or whatever, I'm gonna support. Like you don't have to ask. But I have to have arguments with people who I thought were there for me. Then
Hmm.
I go from that to literally 30 minutes later, I'm sitting at the table, budgeting, trying to figure out what I'm gonna be able to do, phone calls. Hey, what you got going on? They didn't even know I had a fight coming up. Like, hey, what you got going on? Oh, well, I'm doing this, 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 and this. Uh, I mean, we could start with 10 grand. Would that be okay? Like asking me as if it's a privilege for them to help me.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah,
the irony is those people are usually the people that you know the least amount of time.
yeah,
Isn't that weird?
yeah, yeah. Exactly. That's exactly the case, man. And it's just like, but if you're not open to those opportunities or those blessings, or you don't, I feel like if you don't lead with a good heart and good intentions and good energy, I don't
Yeah.
think that comes to you. But like, I mean, meeting Elliot Carlisle, man, like he's a designer. He's a little bit of everything, but he's big in the fashion space. Like, this is a gay black man. I'm a mixed martial artist. I'm heterosexual. Like, if I wouldn't have opened myself up to having, because I was VIP at Kansas City Fashion Week. One of my friends had invited me. Like, and this just goes back to what Dean said, putting yourself in positions to win.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of my fight camp for my last fight. I'm driving while I'm in the middle of the fight camp. I have to move. So I'm driving from Florida to St. Louis. Like, for me, I'm initially upset because I'm like, man, I'm gonna lose like a day or two of training. I got this fight coming up in a
Hmm.
few weeks. I get to like right outside of Nashville. He calls my phone, and he's pretty important in Kansas City. He's like the unofficial mayor of Kansas City, man. Like my friend. He ran for mayor last year, lost by a slim margin.
Mm.
He's like, we had a conversation a few months before. He's like, hey, we talked about the Fashion Week event that I'm hosting. I got your VIP set up, got your hotel. Like, you still coming, right? It's tomorrow,
Mm.
and I'm like, shit, I forgot about it because I've been in like a whirlwind, man. And I'm like, you know what? Like one thing about me, like if I say I'm gonna do something, like I'm gonna do something. Being here today, man, I haven't been asleep since yesterday.
For real?
Yeah, like for real. Like man, like I probably got about an hour and a half of sleep.
Damn, bro.
But I'm like, if I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do something. If I say I'm gonna be somewhere, I'm gonna be somewhere. Pick up the phone. I call my aunt. She lives in Nashville. I'm like, hey, like, are you home? She owns a bunch of businesses, so she travels around a bit. She's like, yeah, I'm home. I'm like, all right. Hey, I'm gonna look at flights. I'm gonna book a flight out of Nashville. I need to park my car at your house, catch this flight.
Yeah.
Park my car at my aunt's house, catch this flight to Kansas City. I'm in training. I'm probably like 2.5 weeks out from the fight.
Mm.
So, and I'll tell you how funny this is. So I go to Kansas City. I'm there for 3, maybe 4 days doing all the Kansas City Fashion Week stuff. And as I'm there, like I'm meeting a bunch of like important people in the fashion space. And like just they're randomly coming up to me like during shows, be like, "Hey, like I could see you doing this. Like, hey, you should meet this guy." Like I've met so many designers, and I'm like, that was not my intention at all. Like I'm here to support my boy who's hosting the event.
Yeah.
And this guy, man, he's like flamboyant guy, right? Walks up to me, and like I knew he was important because when we were in the VIP section, like when he walked in, like everybody's like
Mm.
making their way over there to go
Yeah.
talk to him. And I'm like, who the fuck is this? Like, who the fuck is this dude? So we randomly standing in the same vicinity, and a photographer comes up to me, introduces himself. He's like, hey, let me get a picture of you two. And I look to my side, and I'm like, because I wasn't with anybody, and he was right there, and I'm like, we're like, oh, okay. We
Yeah.
take a picture. We start talking. He asked for my Instagram. I get his. Go about my business. 10 minutes later, he comes up, and he's like, I can tell like his wheels are like spinning, but like at first I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't know what the situation is, and like we start talking. He starts telling me who he is, blah blah blah. I'm like, all right, yeah, let's do lunch or something tomorrow and let's talk. Like I still didn't know what his motive was at the time. He comes up, I'm at the Lowe's, we do lunch. Man, we talk for about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. Tells me a story. We have very similar stories. And then he's just like, hey, look, like I feel like there's space for you in this industry. and I want to help you get there and figure it out.
Mm.
And I'm like, all right, me, like, I can be an X's and O's person when I need to. I'm like, all right, so what does that look like for you? Like, what do you need from me? Like, hey, I don't have much to offer outside of what I'm a
Like
fighter,
like what you're doing
well,
currently.
outside of what I'm currently doing. Like, if you want like financial compensation, I don't know how much I can do. He's like, don't worry about it. Since from that moment on, man, like I was just in New York, I'm connecting with someone, like
That,
putting me in the
that's
spaces.
how it works, dude. You just gotta be open to the opportunity, right?
Exactly. Now, if I'm driving and I'm like, oh, like I need to get back to St. Louis. I
Yeah.
gotta,
No, I'm not gonna do that.
I'm not gonna, like, where would I be today?
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
true.
it's just crazy how that works out, man. Like, just saying yes to shit,
Mm-hmm.
putting myself in a position to win, and now I'm building like this new team of people. So like, as I'm losing people, I'm meeting new people that I've known for a less amount of time, but that time value and what we're doing in that time is exponential to anything that I've done before with like people I've grown up with.
Right.
And that just blows my freaking mind. That just blows my freaking mind to this day, man.
Yeah,
So,
dude. I think some people, when they know you for a long time, they have a hard time seeing you as anything other than,
what they saw you
yeah,
as,
that
what they
person
know
as
you
you
to
used
be.
to be. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because it's okay to be a different person and to change and grow. Like you're
Hmm.
supposed to be growing and changing,
Yeah.
right? I think some people, they just have an idea of who they are and of who you
Yeah.
are and how we fit in the world, and they just can't change
Yeah.
it for whatever reason.
I definitely learned, I feel like personally, like, it has more to do with them. I
Oh, for
feel like
sure.
most people have a hard time seeing beyond their own horizon.
Yeah,
Like there's a whole world like I know there's a whole world out there at this point beyond even what I can see.
there's so much, dude.
So with that being said, like I'd be ignorant not to entertain an opportunity that comes to me or just say no because like this is who I am. Like anything beyond this isn't for me. Like I'd be stupid. Who knows? Like, I may be needed in certain spaces someday. Like when I think of like my brand and like what I'm trying to build, it goes beyond fighting. When I think about like the people that I want to connect with, and like when I'm in a position to really, really start giving back, like I give back minimally how I can now, is in scale with where I'm at in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But when I think about where I want to be, where I want to go, the people I want to help and like make an impact with, like they don't all have to be fighters. Me going out and doing this television opportunity is going to open me to a world and put eyes on me like with people that fighting never would.
Yeah,
Me going out and doing this film and that's going to open and put eyes on me like for people that I may have never had reach to, people that are interested in like other things. And the thing that connects everything and keeps them all relative is like me at the center of it.
yeah.
So, like, I understand, like, for instance, when I fight, I get knocked out. TKO almost. I didn't go out. You know, ref stops the fight
There's a
back in.
difference.
Yeah, there's a difference. There really is. Ref stops the fight back in February. There's probably like 7,000 people at the arena. Man, this is the note, but like that was the event of all events. Like if I could write a story for how I got in the UFC, it doesn't get more storybook than that. That happens. I'm walking down the ramp. Look to my left. Look to my right. Man, there's like 30 kids there screaming my name. Like I just lost one of the biggest fights and the biggest opportunities in my life.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Mm-mm.
They don't care about the result in the least bit.
Right.
But for some reason they see me and they want to come and support me no matter what.
How was
They
that
want
feeling?
Man, I sat there for about 10 minutes and just talked to them on the ramp, still sweaty, just got knocked down and I was like, man, like from that moment I went into the back. I talked to Dean. Dean's like he's always there when he needs to be. Like I had people be like, "Oh, when you lost that fight, I didn't see Dean in the cage and this and this and that." I'm like, D, he don't need to be there right then. He knows I'm fine. I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna walk to the back. We have a conversation. I go to him and I'm like, first thing he says is, "Hey, it's over." And I'm like, man, like I thought I'd be like distraught and destroyed right now. Is that wrong? Because I'm not. But then I had that moment walking to the ramp where I'm like, oh, that is what this is about. At the end of the day, those kids, I'm gonna remember that moment. Those kids are probably gonna remember that moment. There's probably a kid out there that I may have shook hands with that at that moment decided he wanted to fight.
Yeah.
You never fucking know.
You never know.
And
You never
that's
know.
what it's about for me. If I could make it on do a movie and someone sees me and they're like, oh, like there's something that they see themselves in me and they're like, oh, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Someone sees me, if I fight in the UFC, I'm fighting for a title whether I win or not. I know someone somewhere is going to be watching. Someone somewhere that may not be able to see beyond like their horizons and their surroundings, like them getting eyes on me could change their world. That's what it's about.
Yeah. I really do think that we have an obligation. I think a lot of us, I don't think enough people take it seriously enough, but I think you really do have an obligation to like push for greatness,
Yeah.
to like push to really achieve like the things that you can achieve
Yeah.
because like at the end of the day when you tell your story or when people see it or when people meet you, I mean, who knows who you're inspiring
Yeah.
or what may come of it. You know what I mean? I think that there's so much, we're all connected. There's so much interconnectivity between us all that by living on a higher vibration and like
Yeah.
pushing for greatness, like that is going to radiate and you don't know who you're affecting or what may come of it, whether it's for you directly or indirectly through somebody else's life.
It's it's hard though because it can be a very lonely
Oh
existence
no, it is a
because
lonely existence.
it's counterintuitive to like everything that we're taught growing up of like how you are supposed to fit into society.
Right.
Go to school, graduate, go to school, graduate, get a job, family, house, kids, procreate, all that stuff.
Hmm.
Fit into this thread, and that's your place. But like being like a visionary or like being like an artist, like I always say this all the time. I had a conversation with a photographer a few weeks ago. I was talking to about like some business that I'm doing with a friend and training partner, and he's into fighting or whatever, and he's like he just started asking me like questions about technique, and I'm like man, like me and you, we're the same. Like I'm an artist, you're an artist. Like that's always how I've approached fighting.
Yeah.
And with being an artist, to be an artist is to be a visionary. You have to see things that other people don't see.
Yeah.
And that's where the loneliness
Dude, it's a
comes in.
challenging existence that way.
Yeah, it's very challenging, man. And if you're not strong within yourself, like people, they wither to that. And
Hmm.
like seeing something that other people don't see, and then also trying to get people to see and understanding like the process of it. Like that shit is hard, and that shit is like lonely, man. Like, man, I've lost relationships because like even before I'm at where I'm at now, where I was trying at the point to where I'm trying to build to where I'm at now. And if I'm with a partner that may see the world in that way of like, hey, you have to fit in this thread to be stable and be successful in life. And I'm like, understand that I can do that, but what I'm doing right now is I'm making a decision to be great.
Hmm.
I've gotten jobs off of the strength of conversations. I've turned down six-figure jobs before because I knew it would take me away from trying to build what I'm building now. And if I would have went that direction, I don't think I'd be here today. But I know within myself, I know the skills, the capabilities, the talents that I have. You talked about vibrating earlier, like the vibrations that I have. I'm constantly going to be approached with opportunities like that because of who I am, the people that I surround myself. Conversations have led me into job opportunities. I got a job right now that I didn't even apply for. Like it's crazy, and it's like I wrestle with myself because I'm like, working the job, and then I'm like, man, like, one, like, I'm the youngest person in there. Everybody in there is like 50 plus,
Yeah.
50 plus, like, and I'm realized, like, oh shit, like, this is what they do. Like, this is it for them. Like,
Yeah.
this is, and that's not bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm not downplaying anybody, but they made me an offer like I couldn't refuse. Like, you're gonna pay me over 75 a year, salary, benefits, to work 3 to 4 days a week.
Yeah. Sign me up.
So like, I'd be crazy to say no to that.
Yeah.
But then being in that environment also is a balancing act because I'm like, I know I can't get comfortable.
Right.
If I get comfortable making this money,
Mm-hmm.
I get comfortable spending time in this. I'm in an office. I don't do any labor, no hard labor. Like,
Yeah.
couldn't be a better situation. And that's just, I got that from picking up a phone call, and I literally was. I was in and out of St. Louis, but I knew I was going to be there for 2 days. They called me. They're like, "Hey, can you come from this interview?" And I'm like, "Well, shit, I don't have anything else to do today." So like, I'm going to go to the interview. I walk out with the job. And then I'm like, dang, I didn't prep for the interview. I didn't, but I'm here. Like, so
Yeah.
yeah, and it's just crazy, man, like how those opportunities come. And like, even now I'm in a better place to be like, I could gauge where I'm at and where I'm trying to, like, what I'm trying to do and be like, okay, I can do this. I can work this job and I can still build. However, here is my threshold.
Right.
If you try to take my time beyond this, I'm out. I don't care what you want to pay me. I set the parameters.
Yeah.
Like, so it's a constant balancing act, and it's still very, very lonely. But like, you're probably the first person that I told I've even worked this job. But if I talked to somebody, if I told someone that I may have dated in the past or something like that, I'd be like, oh, like, I'm so proud of you. I'm this and that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I could have done this 5, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
But I realized where I needed to put my energy at what time. And right now, this fits within the roadmap of what I'm trying to build.
Right.
A year from now, it may not.
It's a means to an end at the
Yeah,
moment.
yeah, And I'm a sole believer in how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yeah.
So even knowing that, that doesn't mean I'm going to go in there and half-ass and bullshit the job.
Right.
That's just not me. That's not who I am. I don't want that energy in my life.
Right.
So I approach that job how I approach fighting. I approach any acting job that I've gotten how I approach fighting. It's all the same.
Yeah.
And even the last little film that I did is What If I Stay? I auditioned for like one of the smallest roles in the film. I may have had like 2 lines. Do the meeting with the producer and the director, Abby DeFabio. She's actually, I didn't even know. I did this whole interview with this girl. I didn't even know she was like a musician. Like, she's a Spanish girl, but she's like, she has a pretty big following. I was like, damn, I had no idea.
Oh, really? You never
But
know, man.
you never know who you come across.
No, man.
And she's like, after doing the audition for whatever small role they have for me, and they're like, you know what? Like, we want you to try for the lead role.
Hmm.
I'm like, all right. I'm like,
How many lines does that take?
I'm like, okay. Send me the script. I do the lines, and she's like, yeah, your keyword, your energy is perfect.
Matters.
And I'm like, all right. I'm like, okay. So, even with that, gave me the script, studied that script, found myself in it. A couple weeks go by, I find myself on set. And I'm on set with like people that are like trained actors.
Yeah.
Me, I've done some small stuff here locally. Like, I'm just like happy to be here.
Yeah.
So I get to working or get to meeting everybody, get to working, do my first couple of scenes. And then like the other actors are like, they're coming to me and asking me, oh, what'd you think about this? Or like asking me for like input. These are people that are like, oh, this is my acting coach and she's done this, like
Yeah.
connected to like strong
Did
people.
that feel weird or what?
It felt very weird,
Like
man.
surreal, maybe?
Yeah. But what I've come to realize, and this is a part, like another thing I've been writing about. Like, one of my goals in life is I want to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing I've been writing about is like you said earlier, you know, living in scarcity and like how that could like make you like my scarcity, like from a child growing through life to where I'm at now. I've been acting my entire fucking life
Mm.
to survive. Acted like I was okay when I wasn't. Acted like I'm the quiet kid when truly at heart I'm the artist and I'm
Mm-hmm.
expressionable and I'm personable and like I've been acting to survive. So like it makes sense why you could throw me a script and I can go out there and just I'm not acting, I'm just being.
Mm.
Like it all fucking makes sense.
Yeah. Everything's just
It,
aligning and
yeah,
working out.
it's just a line and it's just crazy, man. And like
Yeah.
I'm excited for what's to come though, you
You're
know.
doing a lot of introspection.
I feel like maybe too much. Like
Well, shit, bro, you're on the
it's
road a lot. What else do you do when you're on the road? Or you listen to audiobooks? Do you read? Or you
audiobooks. I've been trying
you're
to
probably
force
just
myself
thinking
to
a
read
lot.
more. Dude, thinking.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize like it's crazy now that I'm aware of like how much like and I learned this through relationships, how much I detach and dissociate from like what's happening at times. So now I'm at the point to where like I'm aware of it and I catch myself doing it.
Yeah.
Like I'll be in a conversation with someone, and it's not that I'm not paying them attention, right? Like it'll all start with the conversation, which will spark a thought that's related to to the conversation, and we're here in the conversation, but then in my mind I'm thinking here,
Yeah.
you know.
I get
It's
it.
probably gonna happen like 2 or 3 times now as we talk,
Hmm.
as we talk, but then realizing it's a strength,
Yeah.
but then also realizing that when I'm engaging with people, like I owe them my attention too.
Yeah, it's just like coming back to center and focusing.
Never would have realized it or put eyes on it if it wasn't for Dean.
Really?
Yeah.
You brought attention
I
to it?
tell you, he taught me a lot with fighting, but like 99.9% of our conversation is not about fighting.
Taught you more about life.
And I know that's such a cliche, but it's like so fucking true, man. Like from the littlest things, like he's the first person that picked up on the fact that I dissociate. And it was through like training because like me and Dean, we can talk and we can train and we can break things down to a molecule and like a technique will become like a forum
Mm-hmm.
for me and him. And I didn't realize how unique that was for like him until like people that are around him are like, yo, the way y'all talk and communicate is not
It's not
that's
normal.
not normal. Like he don't even really like do that, like for real. But like he would notice like I remember when I first started training with him, he's like, you're good, man. You're technically sound, like you got it. But like my biggest fear is that you will lose focus at a critical time in a fight,
Mm.
which essentially happened back in February.
Yeah.
Dominating the fight, lost focus because I gotta be exciting. Oh, I got poked in the eye. I want to take my eyes off my opponent and motion to the ref.
Yeah.
Like,
Like you're thinking
yeah,
too
I'm
much.
thinking too
Yeah.
much. And I haven't always been self-aware and like just little things like comments that he make because like we train like early in the morning, go out into the garage space we have set up, and like one thing I wasn't even aware that I do is like I I do that a lot. It's soothing to me. Like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it opens up my lungs and like it's just something I've always done. And then I remember one day he's like, he's like, yo, what the fuck is wrong with you? Because I'm sitting next to him. He's thinking I'm like upset or
Yeah.
like I'm like, I don't want to fucking be here.
Yeah.
But like I'm in my mind, I'm like preparing. I'm getting
Yeah.
ready. That
Focus on
feels
your
good
breath.
for
Yeah.
my lungs. He's like, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? Like you don't want to be here. Don't be here. And I'm like, hold on, wait, where's this coming from? Like,
Yeah.
where is this coming from? And like he wasn't like pissed off or anything. He was like being funny about it.
Yeah.
But I mean that launched us into a conversation after the fact to about self-awareness. And he's like, I think sometimes you get so focused, you lose focus, and then
Mm.
you're also not self-aware of like how other people are portraying you that are around you.
Oh, okay.
So I would do like little things like that. Like I'm not thinking about how other people are processing the information. Or if, you know, I walk into the house and there's like a group of people, I go to my default and I'm like, I'm moving to like stay out of the way. Like
Right.
for me, I feel like I'm being respectful, right? But like
Right.
someone else could be like, oh, why is he so standoffish? Or why
Right.
isn't he, I do the minimum high,
Like, why is he not engaging with us?
yeah,
Does he not
yeah.
like
And
us?
other
Does he thinks
people
he's
would,
better than us? Or it could be
yes,
anything.
I've done that my entire life, man.
Yeah. That's their problem.
And
Fuck them.
fuck but like being introspective is like helped me like dial in on
Yeah.
like all of that.
Yeah.
Because and then like even like meeting Elliot in Kansas City, the David who wasn't aware for that, or the David that tries to stay out of the way, like would have stayed out of the way of an opportunity.
Yeah.
And I've done that so much in my life. I've stayed out of the way of opportunities to shine because I want to dim my light to help other people, or I'm not as self-aware, just
Right.
for a plethora of reasons.
So Dean made you aware of that, huh?
Yeah,
How long? It's
man.
been a couple years ago, you say now?
Yeah, about a year. I would
About a
say
year
about a
ago?
year and a half. Year and a half. We
So
were.
like the past like year and a half, you've just been on this like intense like introspection of just figuring out like how are you perceived by people and just
Yes.
being aware whenever you kind of dissociate from the situation.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you ever feel like when you're talking to somebody, I do this because I dissociate as well. So because there have been times I think especially in maybe like past relationships or something like I'll be sitting there or and like my ex-wife in particular, she would be like expressing something to me or we'd be arguing or something. I'd be sitting here as close as we are now or closer looking
Yeah.
at you. And then all of a sudden, like, I just feel like I'm a million miles away from you. Like, I just feel like I'm just, distance is just, I'm looking at you. I see you. I know you're right here in front of me, but I feel like I am 10,000 miles away from you. And I do that
Yeah.
with people sometimes. And it's a weird thing. And it's not something I was really aware of until maybe a year or so ago, and I was just thinking about I do that. I'm like, I don't think this is normal
Yeah.
that people
Yeah.
do this.
It's your normal.
It is my normal, so
Yeah.
I assume other people do
Yeah.
it, but in reality, my
It's
normal isn't everybody's normal. But you're pretty similar to me, I
very.
realize.
Have you ever seen the movie The Secret Life of Walter Mitty?
I don't think I've seen that.
Watch that,
Let me look it up
man.
real quick so I can
Look,
at least see the cover of it.
you're
real
gonna
fast.
watch. What's his name? Ben Stiller. Ben Stiller.
Okay.
He works for Time magazine, and basically he has a pretty mediocre life, right?
Oh, I've seen this movie. Yeah, he just imagines everything. Right? Doesn't he
That
have he has a
yeah.
crazy imagination?
That's what we do, man.
Yeah.
Like so, like, i.e., I'll go back to relationships because you just brought up a relationship. I'd say the one person I've ever truly been in love with, right?
Yeah.
We could be laying next to each other on our couch, like cuddled up, right?
Hmm.
And for me, in my mind, like a thought occurs. I'm happy. I am content. That thought sparks the dissociation to where I'll go into dreaming our entire future.
Mm.
Because I'm so happy, I'm content. Like, not only just like seeing it, like I'm feeling it. Like I feel like I'm there, like I'm daydreaming,
Yeah.
right? And then in the midst of my in the midst of my daydream, I hear a comment like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, "Yeah." What do you mean? So I snap back to like I left. I was not present.
Right.
That moment grounded me. That comment grounded me, and now I'm back. And she's like, "Are you okay?" Like I feel like something's wrong. And then I'm like no, like I'm good. And she's like, she's an intuitive, emotionally empathetic person, and she could be like no, man, like something's not right.
Yeah.
And like she could be anxious, so that'll spark her anxiety. And then we'll go into this back and forth of like, it'll grow from "Are you okay?" to "No, I'm fine" to like "Are you sure?" And she's like, "I feel something isn't right," or "I
Yeah.
feel like you're not here." Then I'd be like, "Are you trying to tell me how I feel?" Like, and then like that little thing will turn into this big drawn out argument.
Yeah.
When really at the time, I just couldn't articulate.
Right. It's like a communication.
I couldn't articulate that like I'm imagining my future with you.
Mm.
To her, it felt like I'm detaching from her.
Right.
We're in the same space, but two different realities.
That's true.
I think today, like obviously, I've honed that in, but not only that is I'm at a point to where I can articulate my feelings and emotions a little bit better,
Yeah.
as opposed to staying out of the way.
Right. I think that also has to do with maybe security on on the other part as well
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
To
for
be like,
sure.
hey man, you're here with me right now. Like, what's going on through your head?
Yeah.
But to understand that doesn't necessarily mean you're.
There's an element there too.
So
It's
it's
like,
not all on you, but no,
yeah,
it's dude.
yeah.
That's probably a huge self awareness like moment. It's like, dude, how many times do you like go over those moments in your life? You're like,
Yeah.
whoa, that's what that was.
Yeah.
I do that a lot, bro.
It's crazy. And I feel like the more I do it, I mean, that just means there's more growth there because like that's something that I didn't know before.
Right.
So that's why it's coming to me.
Yeah.
So now I guess that's where intention comes in because now I'm like, whenever I notice certain things happening, I want to attack it in the moment,
Mm. Yeah.
not retroactively or after the fact because
Yeah.
after the fact could be too late.
For sure. For sure. I
Yeah.
don't like to let certain things stay on my mental plate too long.
Yeah.
It helps keep me very efficient.
That's a weird thing though too. Like you got on we're weird in that way. So like whenever like I'm relationships, there's an argument or there's something that needs to be talked about, I want to attack it right away.
Yeah.
Like not that I'm like forceful like we have to talk about this, but I'm gonna do what I need to do to like make sure we have dialogue in a forum to talk about it. Some people need days to even figure out how they feel about how they feel.
Right. You got to kind of like chew on it for a second. And then
Yeah.
you can communicate it.
But I'm not like that. I'm like, even if I'm not sure how I feel about something, I want to get the spark going
Oh, really?
right away. Like, let's just attack it right away so it could lead into whatever the solution needs to be.
Oh, I'm not quite like that.
Yeah.
Deja is. She's like
Yeah.
that. She wants to. I need to, because I'm so used to thinking of stuff in my head,
Yeah.
and I think I've developed a way where I realize I'm a better writer than I am a speaker. Like I speak pretty well, but sometimes I'm not able to articulate what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And I need to sit on something for like a day or so sometimes to
that would
like
drive
really
me.
figure. Sometimes I just need to figure out what do I think about things.
Yeah.
Like I'm really weird about that. I was like, man, it's
Okay.
like, what do I really think about this? Like, all right, let me think about how do I want to say this, and what are the best words, or am I just reacting with ego and emotion right now? Like, why
Yeah.
do I feel this way? Sometimes I do need to sit on things for a
Yeah.
little, but I think that's just because I'm so much in my head.
Yeah.
You don't live in that space in your head so much anymore to where you feel like you have to retreat. It sounds
Not
like.
in that way.
Yeah, not
But
in
when
that
it comes
way.
to the introspection, I'm like that.
Yeah. Yeah, but if you're trying to handle an issue, I was like,
I'm
hey,
like,
like let's get it all on the table
Yeah.
and like let's work it out
Like,
right here together.
I'm not married to an outcome.
Yeah.
But like, let's get it out there and start to chop the wood and get through what we need
Yeah,
to get
I could
through
be
so we
better
can
at
see.
that.
I
That's
mean,
like a collaborative approach
yeah,
in a way.
yeah, because like what I've learned is someone who's not like that
Yeah.
could perceive that as like me being aggressive, even though like my dialogue, my posture, or anything isn't aggressive. Or they're like, oh, I feel like this, and I'm like, oh, like so, why do you think you feel that way? And
Yeah.
they're like, oh, like, what, are you attacking me?
Right.
Like,
Well,
I'm just trying to sort through the weeds here. Like that's all
Yeah.
I'm trying to do.
that's just
and
how
then-
you handle situations
Yeah.
head on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like most people don't really like that. And I feel like that's where it's like you said you spoke about your relationship. That's where like love comes in, right?
Yeah.
I feel like so if I was to date a female that was similar to you in the approach where they need like time, like that would like frustrate the hell out of me.
Really.
But you realize like what I've learned, man, like I feel like people have like a transactional approach to like love, to where they feel like if you do this for me, you love me. If you bend at this for me, you love me. It's that transactional whatever. And if
Ye-
I love you, I'm going to do this for you.
Yeah.
I feel like most importantly, like love matters most when you're not benefiting from it.
Yeah, I think that's a mature understanding of love. I think what you just explained, the transactional, is a very young approach to
Yes.
love.
Yes, and I've been with people that are like that, to where
It's
it's
not
like,
even love, I probably would say. That's more infatuation
I
and
was
lust.
I would say that too. And it's like I've been in situations like that, and like realizing that like if I've been with someone who may have been more actionably, expressionably, outwardly doing the transactional loving things like, oh, I love you, so I'm going to text you every morning and let you know I love you.
Mm-hmm.
I loved you, so I'm going to buy you this. I loved you, so I'm going to do whatever,
Right.
however you say,
Whatever
people
your
say,
love
whatever,
language
I
is.
was just about to say, whatever people say your love language is, I'm going to do this because I love you. That shit don't last. Because, like, every transaction has an end to it
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But if I could say in that moment, I love you, this is who you are, it doesn't necessarily like suit me, but I'm going to love you either way.
Right. Having that patience and understanding.
I'm going to love you when it's not convenient for me to love you. I feel like that's more the most important thing.
Yeah, that's super important. But I think
Yeah.
the flip side of that is, to your point, knowing who you are and how you
Yes.
communicate and being able to communicate, or in how you operate rather, and being able to
Yeah.
communicate that so they understand it.
Exactly.
For me, I realized, it's like that saying, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say
Don't say
anything at all, right?
yeah.
And then, as being an introspective guy, if I get pissed off or something, I just won't say anything, because I know if I say something right now, I'm probably gonna fuck this up. So I need a second. So I had to learn that about myself, and if it just depending on the situation, I had to be like, all right, listen, we'll address this situation. I just give me like a day to think this through, and then we'll talk about it, or
Yeah.
however many hours. And that's not an easy place to get to learn circling back around the beginning, right? Setting
Yeah.
those boundaries, right? And those
Yes.
parameters, and,
Yep.
and just being like, hey man,
Yep.
this is where I'm at. And I had to do this with Deja the other day, and it's I think it's actually kind of a leadership trait, which it's, like, say you're in an office, for example, and you're working on something, you have an employee come through your door and they need you for 5 minutes. It's like, hey, listen, let me finish this email I'm typing real quick, and then I can give you my attention. But right
Yeah.
now, I can't give you my attention until I finish this thing.
Yes.
Right. And I actually had to do that because I was studying or doing something. And she like walked up to me, wanted to tell me this. I was like, I just need just a couple minutes. Let me finish this, and I'll give you my undivided
Yeah.
attention. And that's like just one of those boundary things. And
Mhm.
we were talking, and it wasn't one of those things that initially she didn't like that feeling.
Yeah.
She doesn't like having that boundary set, or
Mhm.
or people saying like no, or I need time. But she understood, because you kind of grow and you learn how to, what's healthy in a relationship
Yeah.
and how to communicate. But that ability is not, it's like a learned thing. You have to work on that.
Yeah, because I mean, for her, it could have been off-putting, but like for you, you're saying I can be more effective for you in communication once I get this off my plate.
Yeah.
To where she took it as like, I don't want to talk to you right now.
I think she understood. Yeah, I think that was the initial feeling. It's like,
Yeah.
what? Oh, wait, but then she obviously
Yeah.
she understood. But it's like, hey man, I care about what you have to bring to the table, and I love you. And it's like, I want to listen to you. It's just I'm not able to do that right now.
Yeah.
Communication's a hard fucking thing, especially when you live in your head so much.
Communication runs the nation, man.
I know.
Like for sure. And like I've said, it sounds like we have very similar stories about like being in our head, but just different styles of like how we portray it and how
Yeah.
it affects us. Like, so I mean that's pretty cool. But like everyone has their story, man. Like at the end of the day, like it sounds like within your relationship, and it's important to have challenging relationships, because if Deja doesn't contrast to you in that way, you don't learn that about yourself maybe as much.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is your fiance. This is someone you're in love with. Like, you're building a life with this person.
Right.
So if she brings up something that's in contention to like who you are or know yourself to be in that moment, like you have to address it.
Yeah.
You have to, and even if you don't fully correct, you have to unpack it in some kind of way, or like the relationship isn't gonna flourish. And I think that's another thing. Like me, I need a challenge. I don't want someone that like we have all the same things in common. We have all the same friend groups. Like that's like easy and it could be fun, and I think there should be an element to it. Like we should grow and develop like things that are ours together.
Mm-hmm.
But like I don't want you to just fit this gap in my life. Like this is who I am, and like this person that I'm in a relationship can just fit and plug right into it. Because I want to adapt and I want to move and I want to change my baseline on things as well too.
Yeah.
So like I want somebody that's a little different than me in certain ways. I want somebody who's going to hold me accountable.
Yeah.
Like I guarantee you, Deja, in that moment, she probably said something and you were like, You probably didn't realize how off-putting it was to her at first. That you were like, "Oh, let me do this first, and I'll get
It's always my
like,
communication style. It's like
yeah,
not what I'm saying, it's how am I saying
yeah, yeah." But
it.
like, there are people that will like, like would have been in that situation, like in Deja's shoes, and just been like, "Oh, okay."
Mm.
Like, I don't want somebody that's gonna, "Oh, okay," or that's just gonna go with the flow. Like, if I'm doing something you don't like, tell me. If you're thinking less of me for a reason, tell me, because I really believe in reciprocity. I think that's probably the most fundamental thing in relationships. So if I'm holding you to a standard of communication, like, I want you to hold that to me as well.
Yeah.
I want you to be able to do that for me. I want you to be able to challenge me as well. If I'm challenging you here, I'm saying you can grow here. Like, I want someone that's going to do that. I've been living in my fucking head and getting through the world on my own for so long. Like, it would be nice to have a partner that, like, in certain ways, like, I feel inadequate
Yeah,
for,
they
you
bring
know?
they got some strengths that you don't.
Yes,
Yeah.
like, for sure. Like, and I feel like nowadays, like, instant gratification, like, we don't want any type of friction. I feel like friction creates smooth surfaces.
Mhm.
Like, this idea that someone is gonna come and they just fit everything and it's
Yeah,
perfect.
nothing's
Like,
perfect.
that's ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
Seen too many movies or
Yeah,
something.
everybody they have a romantic idea of what life is and how challenges are met.
Yeah,
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 it's not that. It's definitely not that, dude.
yeah. So
Challenges are getting older, bro.
we'll see. And I want the challenges. And like, what I will say is, you may or may not see me doing things as far as what I have going on that are related to that.
Well,
I'm trying to word it and be as elusive as I can, but
I get it. Well,
if
one
you,
thing's for sure, you're always doing something, and you're like you're moving in the right direction, right? Like you're
yeah,
taking steps to progress and grow and
yeah,
challenge yourself.
and people think it's like so cool, and I'm like, man, like, what you don't understand is, like, I'm like driving in this car, and like on the outside it looks like cool and stable, but on the inside I'm just like,
Yeah.
barely holding it together. I'm barely feeling like I have direction sometimes, but then something happens and just like jumps me and catapults me into the right place. I meet someone that's a catalyst to this, and it's just like, oh, you're here, you're there, and I'm like, man, trust me, this is not for fun. This is not leisure.
Yeah.
If you see me somewhere, something's happening, and
Right.
I'm trying to make something happen,
Yeah.
and it's work, and you best believe I'm sacrificing something to be there. Like,
You're a man on a mission, bro.
I'm not trying to be cool,
Yeah.
like, this shit is tough,
Yeah.
man. And
Other people think you're cool. That's not what you're trying
yeah,
to do. You're just
yeah,
out here trying to live.
yeah, yeah,
Like for real, you're trying to just
a
like build
hundred
your
percent,
reality.
100%, man.
Oh.
And you get it. I can tell you get it. Like, from the conversations we had off air, like, yeah, man. This was a refreshing conversation. I'm glad I came here.
I'm glad you came too,
Like,
man. It's always good to like connect with like-minded people.
yeah.
Dude, David, we've been going for almost a couple hours, dude.
Damn, it feels like about 20 minutes.
It shit flies by, brother.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to like tell the people about or direct them to as we're wrapping this up?
As far as reaching to me, seeing what I got going on, I mean, Instagram is my most used platform at Fighting David. You can find me there. I'm working on some other things as far as like YouTube and all that stuff. Not my main focus right now, but right now I'm quiet. I'm in the building stage. So if you want to see what I'm working on or see the end result of some things, just check me out there.
Dope,
Yeah.
dope. Dude, I appreciate you stopping by again,
Nah,
my dude.
thanks for having me, man. It's been a pleasure, and I'm happy to see, like, from the first time I was on here, to like where you're at and where I'm at. I think it's cool, and I think we're gonna continue to both grow.
Yeah, bro.
And so the third time is gonna be a charm.
Third time's gonna be where it's at, my dude. It'll be a whole different studio
Whole
by that
different
time.
studio. We both gonna be on a whole different level. I'm putting it out there in the universe.
Let's go.
All right, brother.
All right, everybody. Till next time.